Starting in 2018, my next guest began a 35,000-mile photography mission, taking him across our country and back several times. It was all to gather photos for this new book, Ghosts of Segregation, a collection of photos and essays on America's history of segregation, slavery, and racism. A story told through buildings and landscapes. The essays in the book were written by B. Brian Foster, and images were taken by award-winning photographer and Seattleite Richard Frischman, who joins me on our couch this morning. Thanks so much for being here, Rich. I really appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be here with you.
And I've really enjoyed looking at the book. I don't know if enjoyed is the word. No, it is enjoyable to go back through history and to see America's journey, one that is not yet complete, obviously. What got this, what sparked the idea? What got this project started?
Well, I've always been concerned about equal justice and equality. I grew up during the era, the birth of the modern civil rights movement, and I remember a lot of those events. And in recent history, hearing nativism and white Christian nationalism being sort of fanned, it troubled me so much. I felt that I needed to do something important to address that issue. And so I'm a photographer, I'm a photojournalist, and I just decided I'm going to go out and document the traces that are here that people frequently deny.
Yeah, you know, I'm pretty famous in my family and nowhere else, but my kids know me as the guy who sees an old building or a cemetery and stops the car and makes everyone get out and look at it and question it.
Good for you.
And think about the stories from the past. And maybe that's why I connected so much with your book, is because you take these monuments to our history that we don't even know exist. Maybe it's a barn you drive by and you don't realize that a major chapter in our civil rights history happened there, or there's a wall that was built by a former slave to enslave himself, like his master said, build me a wall to keep you in. You know, and these stories, I mean, these are places you could just drive by, right? And not even think twice about.
Yes.
Is that kind of the motivation with you and the author of the book as well?
Yeah, I grew up listening to my dad, who was a builder, explain the history of every building that we would drive by, much like you made your family get out.
Yeah.
And though I didn't appreciate it enough at the time, I came to realize that these buildings contained history, and they contained the spirits of the people who had been there. And my photojournalism was always very people-oriented. This was a departure, and it is stunning that these places are so surrounding us, but we don't notice it because we make assumptions, or the edifice is just so banal that you don't think it's anything. That picture of the Moore Theater, I stood outside that so many times waiting in line to go to concerts or the Seattle International Film Festival, and to realize in 2019 that that's a colored entrance. Wow. That is the vestige. The Moore was built in 1907. It's the oldest continuously used entertainment venue in Seattle, and that represents the state of the world in 1907.
It's amazing. Yeah. Now your partner in this project, B. Brian Foster, is a black man. You are a white man.
Yes.
I wonder if in bringing the two of you together, in a sense, it's something, if it gave you any insight into some of the stories in your book, in a sense that when we as Americans look at these landscapes and these places, we see them from our own perspective. So you were able to bring your perspective, he was able to bring yours. Was that valuable?
It was very valuable. I can take a really impactful photograph, but I can't tell the story of what it's like to be black in America. And when I got to the point that publishers were approaching me, I realized that I was inadequate alone. I needed another voice to sing out this, and I talked with a number of writers, and Brian had written a book, I Don't Like the Blues, about Clarksdale, Mississippi, and it struck me that he was the perfect partner because he too sees history evidenced in place and places that we don't think about.
We're looking right now at that photo of the Moore Theater that you were talking about. So that was a separate entrance in 2019.
In
1907.
And I don't know when it stopped being used, but the term colored entrance, I just want to mention, everybody who wasn't white, in the Northwest, that meant a lot of Asian people and Native Americans, Hispanics, as well as African Americans had to ascend that stairway.
There was a lot of categorization. What's this, the Ed's Drive-In?
This Ed's Drive-In, that window on the right is what was once the colored window. Wow. When we see it now, this is our assumption, it's a drive-up window, but it's not, and it never was, and they retained it. At least I photographed this in 2019. It was still retained because they wanted to teach us a lesson, remind us. In 2022, it was removed, during a remodeling.
So if we know what we're looking at, there are some stories to be told to us by these structures. What's this one right here?
This is a segregation wall in Templin Saloon in Gonzales, Texas. And this was actually the first picture that I shot that's part of the project. When I shot it, I was doing something else, a little also about architecture containing history, but a lot more sanguine. This, I walked in because I was told to by a very assertive local, and the bartender took me around to show me the history on the walls, and after the half-hour tour, I came back to the beginning and I said, so tell me about this wall. And his face changed. He said, my grandmother sat behind that wall until 1965. It was a segregation wall.
Oh my gosh.
And he was Hispanic, his grandmother was Hispanic, and there's a separate entrance at the back of the bar. And I've been told by a friend of mine who's in Texas that wall is gone now after Templin Saloon closed a couple of years after my visit. It was remodeled and removed.
It's fascinating. So many places have stories to tell, and thank you for bringing their stories to the forefront. It's a fascinating book. I encourage you to get it. And just a reminder, Richard is holding an author event tomorrow night at the Elliott Bay Book Company up on Seattle's Capitol Hill. So check out their website for event details. Thanks so much, Rich.
Thank you, Jim.
Real pleasure.